I want to thank you for making My Pillow 2.0 a huge success. Now I'm bringing it to you for the lowest price ever. Get a queen size for only $39.98 with your promo code. My Pillow 2.0 is made with my patented adjustable fill. Plus, we've infused the fabric with our temperature regulating technology. You combine that with our brand new Mattress Topper 2.0, and I guarantee you get the best sleep of your life. It's the perfect time to get the MyPillow 2.0s for your friends, family, and everyone you know. They truly make the best Christmas gifts ever. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 50%. Get your queen size MyPillow 2.0 regularly $79.96, now only $39.98, and king size just $5 more. From all of us at MyPillow, Merry Christmas and God bless.
MyPillow.com.
We're on the precipice of World War, but all of this posturing that is going on, nation states and major alliances, and then military incursions that are happening here. I mean, is this ramping up to a World War scenario?
Well, okay, what I like to educate everybody is we are in World War III. Let's stop talking about getting into this. Is what World War looks like. China is pushing the buttons. Everybody thinks it's bombs and missiles landing on American territory. That's going to be the absolute last stages of the war. We're in war right now. Fentanyl is killing 10,000 Americans. That's part of the war. Open borders, Chinese nationals moving in, muscling in on cannabis production. That's part of the war. This is all part of World War III is going on now. So we need to just get it out of our system, saying when it happens, it's happening. We have to be more sophisticated and recognize what's going on. It is going on right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go back to the conclusion of the Michael Yon interview, a very important one, and he's going to nail a case. I say nail a case. He's going to present a case where it's almost inevitable that they're getting ready to bring famine, a very effective warfare tactic that, of course, Mao and Stalin were really good at. I think Stalin intentionally killed 30 million people through famine. But just take pause here. We've got some important news coming into Monday, and I'm joined by a man he's got more than 35 years of national security service in uniform, and as a senior civilian at the Office of the Secretary of Defense, having served at the National Security Council. His service spans eras such as the Cold War, the Peace Dividend, War on Terror, World in Chaos, of course, and now the great unraveling of global stability, of course. But Colonel John Mills, I'm improvising on my introduction of you. I hope no disrespect intended, of course, but sir, welcome and good morning. How are you? Here we are.
Hey, going good. Lot
of stuff. Lot of stuff happening, Colonel Mills. This morning and this weekend I was really focused on this Venezuela vote, and I'll share with you what my concerns are, but. In advance of this thing going on, where they invented electronic voting machine fraud in Venezuela, I must say, they kicked out a vote. Maduro kicked out a vote to give the people an opportunity to decide whether or not to invade Guyana, a resource-rich Guyana. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Well, you backtrack a little bit, you see. The Biden administration, the Biden wrecking ball, lifting the sanctions from Venezuela, offering support to Guyana. So I've got some commentary here. We'll get to Venezuela, but let's go to the Middle East, you've got your map up there of the Middle East. What the heck is going on with the attacking of ships in the Middle East?
Yeah, let me get the picture back up here.
Yes, sir.
There we go. Yeah, I was trying to get your audio in my here. I'm trying to. Okay, let me move the camera a little bit. Okay. Oh, not that much. Okay. Yeah. So Pete, what we got going on? I'm trying to get myself all over the place here. So what we got going on is a full-blown tanker war. Now, in the people may not remember, but in the 80s, there was a tanker war, 1988, 89. Really was going on from 86, but it was primarily up here. This is the Strait of Hormuz. Now, that's a very important strategic point where much of the world's oil, especially Europe and Asia, must pass through right up here. American oil, even without Trump energy dominance, we don't get a whole lot of oil from here, actually. And people always say, well, we're in the Middle East just for oil. No, actually, it's not totally true. And we actually get very little, and historically we've gotten very little. But Iran was blocking the oil flows. And so we reflagged 14 Kuwaiti tankers, and which gave them, we put them under U.S. flag, which gave them U.S. Navy escort. We had a much larger Navy back then, 600 ships, and we escorted them through here. And that was Earnest Wind, I think it was the name of the operation, but there's a number of sub-operations, Praying Mantis, and which was kind of the climax. And we really wiped out the Iranian Navy, which was a lot of just improvised small craft, things like that. We destroyed them. They were also using a number of Gulf oil platforms for surveillance, to launch the attacks from the small craft. So we wiped those out. So that was 88, 86, 87, 88, and 89. Really, 88 was the climax. Okay, so we really assured passage through here. But now, suddenly, we have a much broader conflict in place. And that's why I say this is the tanker war on steroids. And it's a totally different game. Just like Hamas, this is not about the classic Israeli-Arab conflict that we all, this is just Israeli-Arab conflict. No, totally different. This is all done at the bidding of Iran, which works for China. This is part of Chairman Xi's brushfire arsonist campaign to set off conflict around the world. So now, let me just go through a few of the incidents, and there's many here, but it kind of started down here, just for everybody's orientation. So Iran here, Saudi Peninsula here. We sometimes call this the Persian Gulf. Our Arab partners really prefer to call the Arabian Gulf. So let's call this the Arabian Gulf. The Indian Ocean is really out here, Gulf of Oman here, Gulf of Aden here. This is Yemen. This is where the Houthis are at. And Houthis are historically connected to Iran. Okay, this is going way back. The Houthis have been a proxy for Iran, but now Iran is doing this for China. Now you have Djibouti down here, and you have the oddity where we have a special operations encampment at the airfield, Camp Lemonnier, but about 7 miles away, the Chinese have a much, much larger camp with its own private secure port facility. Our Navy ships have to essentially be amongst all the flotsam and jetsam of all the different ships, so much lower security, operational security. So we're borrowing the commercial port. They have their own private port. So very large Chinese presence here. This is the Red Sea, which is very important for European trade. Europe would die without it. This is the up here. You have the Suez Canal, and then the area of conflict up here, the Gaza Strip up here. So we got a lot of U.S. naval forces up here in the Eastern Mediterranean. This is Cyprus, very important base for the U.S. and the U.K. But let me just go over some of what's going on. On November 20th, the first one kind of occurred, and that was the crazy hijacking somewhere around here, the Galaxy Leader. And it was associated with Israel, supposedly. This is where the Houthis flew an Mi-17. That's kind of a Soviet-Russian era helicopter, but the flying was very good, and landed on the ship and seized the ship. The ship was empty. It was a car carrier. It was one of those weird, very flat-sided, tall car carriers, and it was empty. But now it's somewhere, it's in a port somewhere along here, seized by the Houthis. So the Houthis have the ship and the crew. That was on November 20th. And then in the two other events, there's been a number of events, so I'm just getting about the four major ones. The Central Park, somewhere around here, not totally sure, the Gulf of Aden or the Red Sea. Central Park was a bulk carrier of, looks like petrochemical projects, but not a super tanker. It was attacked, and then also the Zodiac Maritime on the 26th. The Zodiac Maritime was over here, and so we. Neither of those ships was taken. The Zodiac Maritime was boarded, but then the Houthis departed, and then. But I think another one that's very important was on November 26th, kind of off the map, but you had a very large container ship, the Mayette. It's been called the Mayette, the Semi. They renamed it. It's a very large container ship. But this was significant. This is way out here in the Indian Ocean. It was attacked by cruise missiles, or drones. A lot of times they've been saying missiles, drones. It's really hard as you read through the press public releases what's accurate. So this is very important. This is what's going on here is a much broader, much larger attack against merchant vessels on a scale far larger than the tanker war of 88, 89. So this is very significant, and we got to put this in strategic context. Just like the Gaza conflict, this is China. Now, what's going on over here? This is China. And remember, again, China has a very large footprint right here in Djibouti, a much larger base camp right here.
I have a quick question. Yeah, it's just that, the United States Marine Corps. Well, do you know what my MOS was in the military? The Marine Corps?
Refresh my memory.
Oh, no. I was wondering if I had told you. I just didn't want to repeat myself over and over. I was aviation ordnance. I did all aviation deployed weapons. Everything, nuke, biochemical, conventional, so on and so forth. Here's what I suspect is going on, and correct me if I'm wrong. Got my spidey senses up. These drone attacks and attacking an American, destroyer. From what I understand, there was a potential drone attack. I feel like they're probing our defenses, missile defenses and stuff like that, because this particular destroyer's got pretty sophisticated Aegis technology on board. To send drones out there, and if China is behind this stuff, I mean, this is much bigger than just annoyances attacking Navy ships and of course, the tanker wars and all the stuff that's going on with the commercial thoroughfare there. But am I wrong about this? Are they doing probing attacks to see what our Navy's
I would say they're testing, because they're watching this very closely. You always learn things, all kinds of things. I'm not going to go into any details. And again, these are just all my personal observations. They don't represent any organization, but they are you learn things. And it ties us down. It wears us out. It distracts us. That's what's going on, because we essentially only have 3 ships. Now, the Navy has created 5 task forces. I think this is very important. I just got this off the Navy website here. So they have CTF, Coalition Task Force 150. And 150 covers the Gulf of Oman. Let me lighten this up here. It went dark on me. Okay, there we go. The Gulf of Oman, the Greater Indian Ocean, and the Gulf of Aden. So that's CTF. That's one task force. Fifth Fleet is up here. They're oh my gosh, it's not in Kuwait. Bahrain. It's in Bahrain. Fifth Fleet is in Bahrain. So Fifth Fleet has created 5 task forces. 150 covers Indian Ocean, Oman, Gulf of Aden. 151 is the anti-piracy, which was historically here with the Somalis, and that's really kind of wound down until the last few days when all of a sudden we said the Somalis were the ones doing the attacking. And there was an attack yesterday, December 3rd, that was quite substantial. I'll go into that. Then you have 152, which is the Arabian Gulf. So again, 152 handles this area, 152. 153 handles the Red Sea, and then 154 does training for the entire area. So 5 task forces, and yet it looks like cover this whole area. We have 3 destroyers, the Mason, the Carney, and the Hudner. And those are great vessels, great ships, but 3 destroyers running around covering this huge swath of terrain. They're wearing us out. They are probing us, they're testing us, they're learning, but they're wearing us out. We have 3 vessels. We have an undersized Navy, and right here we got 3 ships running around like crazy playing whack-a-mole. And then the 3 December attack, which just happened simultaneously, and this was down here, so it's unclear, was that 153 or 150, so it's really not clear here, 153 or 150. So I don't know what the operational dividing line, and that would be kind of considered confidential information. I don't know. But so they attacked like 3 vessels simultaneously and shot these cruise missiles. Again, they've been unclear. The cruise missiles could be the very inexpensive Iranian Shahed 136s, which are very simple. There's larger Chinese cruise missiles that the Houthis and the Iranians have. So they're wearing us out here. And most of our resources, I believe, both the Ford and the Eisenhower are still up here. And the Bataan, which you would have been on as a Marine, I believe the Bataan, a large deck amphib, is up here, I believe. So it looks like we're covering a huge swath of terrain with 3 destroyers. That's just, ladies and gentlemen, that just isn't enough.
Go ahead, continue on. I'm sorry. Are you getting feedback from me?
No, I can hear you.
Okay. All right, sir. Is it your estimation that China? What about Russia? China, Russia behind this thing? I mean, are they posturing?
This is totally, China is calling the shots and everything. Everybody is a subcontractor to China right now. Russia is a subcontractor to China. Iran is a subcontractor to China. Hamas and the Houthis work for Iran, which works for China. This is now, and again, there was a press release. I don't think I'm out of the 4 incidents I brought up, I don't think I mentioned that one, that they, one of those 3 ships broke up and attempted seizure by Somali pirates, which I was going, Somali pirates. I thought 151, Task Force 151 took care of that years ago. So I didn't know Somalis were back in the game. But then they fired ballistic missiles. And again, the Houthis have ballistic missiles. These are Chinese-made long-range ballistic missiles that they've been lofting all the way toward Israel. And they've also been trying to hit targets deep into Saudi Arabia. The Saudis have a pretty robust air defense, have been knocking them down. But, I think it was the Carney was over here in the Red Sea and has been engaging some of these. It exhausts our missile supply, but it chews up our missile supply when we're taking down ballistic missiles fired by the Houthis all the way over here. But the Houthis have also fired ballistic missiles at some of our ships at sea in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. I mean, it's very unlikely. These are not the advanced Chinese DF-26s that can target a moving vessel. These are, I think, are much earlier Scud-like. But it chews up our resources, ties us down. We take our eyes off of Taiwan, take our eyes off of what's going on in Venezuela.
And I'm hearing that talks have broken down, and Qatar helping to settle the Israel. Go ahead.
Yeah, right up here, we have Qatar is a Sunni-aligned Arab state, but they have good relationships with Iran, and that's always frustrated Saudi Arabia and the UAE because Qatar has a good relationship with Iran, but they're also Muslim Brotherhood aligned, which puts them in line with Turkey off the map here. So Saudi Arabia, the sworn enemy of Saudi Arabia is the Muslim Brotherhood. So, you've got factional conflict going on in addition to China. Hamas's base is in Qatar. It's Ismail Haniyeh, their leader in exile, is right here. But we have Jake Sullivan and some of his team have been going back and forth. The U.S. government has created a forward cell here in Qatar to do these negotiations with Hamas and Israel. It ties down our national security capacity to make decisions. There's only I haven't been at the White House. There's only so much bandwidth you have. No matter how good you are, how right-minded you are, you still only have so much bandwidth. And so, unfortunately, a lot of our bandwidth is being focused right there, which, again, takes the eye off Taiwan, takes the eye off of Venezuela, takes the eye off of China, takes the eye off of unleashing American energy.
And I'd like to dig into Venezuela before we do. And, I don't want to over sensationalize here and say, oh, my goodness, we're on the precipice of World War. But all of this posturing that is going on, nation states and major alliances and then military incursions that are happening here. I mean, is this ramping up to a World War scenario?
Well, okay, what I like to educate everybody is we are in World War III. Let's stop talking about getting into this is what World War looks like. China is pushing the buttons. Everybody thinks it's bombs and missiles landing on American territory. That's going to be the absolute last stages of the war. We're in war right now. Fentanyl is killing 10,000 Americans. That's part of the war. Open borders, Chinese nationals moving in, muscling in on cannabis production. That's part of the war. This is all part of World War III is going on now. So we need to just get it out of our system, saying when it happens, it's happening. We have to be more sophisticated and recognize what's going on. It is going on right now.
Yes. Now, this, I'm going to say this just from my perspective, and I started last week digging into our side of this Venezuela thing, because I discovered that early in November, the Biden Wrecking Ball administration had lifted sanctions and also allowed for third-party sale of oil. That was awkward to me. Then we hear that there's this vote that was put forth by Maduro for the people to authorize him invading resource-rich Guyana. And at the same time, and I see the United States working both sides of that coin because we're offering up assistance to defend Guyana while at the same time lifting the sanctions to get the oil. I'm sorry, my last name's Santilli. I got family members that negotiate deals like this where they say, hey, you pay us, we turn a blind eye to helping out your adversary. This is a major thing that's happening right here because I believe Cuba, Russia, and China are behind that as well, pushing in.
Oh, absolutely. Venezuela has a very large Chinese footprint, a very large Russian footprint, a very large footprint from Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah. They all this is a Disneyland for them in the Americas, and this is a failure of us to enforce the Monroe Doctrine. And people are saying, well, America first, we're going to stay out of everything. That's not how I interpret America first, okay? Especially when this is in the Americas. So you deal with this now, or it's going to be too late when we have to deal with it later. So, this is a failure, and this goes back across numerous administrations failing to deal with Chinese influence in the Americas. And we created a vacuum when we left in the year 2000 from Panama. Nothing in the treaty said we had to leave Panama. It just said we were handing over administration of the canal. The Panamanians didn't want us to leave. They were happy to have us there as business partners, national partners. They are sensitive to a lot of military bases. So we got, they didn't want that, but they wanted America to stay and be a good friend and ally. And we just departed, created a vacuum. Okay. And Venezuela, just like with Iran, a number of members of the Biden administration have this just obsession with kowtowing to Venezuela or Iran. And we're paying the price because it goes back before the Biden team. This goes back into the 1990s. And A lot of it is, I really assign responsibility to State Department, because State Department, in the wake of, okay, there were military dictatorships in Central and South America. Got it. Okay. Of course we want, we have a vision of a better place. But the problem is, once those countries started transitioning toward roughly more democratic societies, the State Department just said, oh, we're not welcome. They don't want us there. And I found that to be absolutely the opposite. These countries really wanted robust American engagement, and were just baffled when State Department and the rest of the U.S. government just were like, we can't really engage with you. And I go, why? Why can't you engage with us? Well, it's because you don't like us from the bad years of the military dictatorships. And they go, that was in the past. We're talking about the present. And so it was just this baffling. I sat in a number of pilots where this happened. Oh, no, we're not allowed to say anything because you don't like us. And they go, guys, that's the past. We're going to talk about the present. We're going to talk about the present. We want America. We want America here. Mm-hmm. And so State Department failed since the 90s to really establish a robust government-to-government dialogue with the Central and South American countries, creating a vacuum for communist infiltration, communist takeover, because it was this bizarre behavior. But again, the Biden team just has this obsession with Venezuela. And that's again, we are in World War III. Let's get it out of our system. This might lead to we're in World War III. World wars look and taste and smell differently all the time, and the Chinese are very good at this. But Venezuela, which is it's corrupt, it's bankrupt. They have paramilitary forces. They don't have a robust Army, Air Force, and Navy. Okay, it's still very, very poorly equipped, poorly trained, poorly led. But this is what was British Guiana. Okay, British Guiana. So British, Dutch, and then off the map is French Guiana. So these three, I call them the Baltics of the Americas, just like Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. These are the three Baltics of the Americas here. But
by the way, I want to interject for those of you that may be tuned in and too young to remember what Guyana is. That's home of the Jim Jones Kool-Aid drinking festival.
That was. An American congressman flew down here to figure out what was going on. He was ambushed at the airport and killed. And then all the followers of the cult, the Jim Jones cult, drank Kool-Aid and killed themselves. Mm-hmm. So horrible, horrible episode. But this also took place here. But Guyana is, essentially they only have police forces. There's a British military footprint here, very small. This is Trinidad and Tobago. Small British presence here, very small British presence. But again, they do have certain defense treaties, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana. And I think, President Ali of Guyana flew to a mountaintop, planted the Guianan flag, and essentially told the Venezuelans, come and take it. So he's really, saying we're not going to give up on this in any way, shape, or form and be intimidated. I think a lot of the conflict when it starts between Venezuela and Guyana is going to be a lot of repurposed commercial vessels, because a lot of the oil-rich territories are actually in the Caribbean Sea here. So I would see a lot of repurposed commercial vessels come over, attempt to essentially naval embargo, naval blockade, maybe small landings here. I haven't done a deep dive on the road network, but I'm pretty sure it's bad. So you're not going to be able to get a whole lot of through on land.
Do you mind me interjecting on this one issue? That's close enough to the Darien Gap there, pushing up to. I mean, you get another war-torn country in South America pushing immigrants up through the Darien Gap, and of course, fleeing to the United States for safe harbor. Will that impact this replacement?
I personally know a number of Venezuelans that have left because of the thug, the dictator Maduro. And so a lot of them come up through the Darien Gap. Now that's all. I got one more map, and it's off to this. But the Darien Gap is kind of up over here. But a lot of the conflict is going to take place off the ocean on the coastal area up here. A lot of repurposed commercial vessels, light patrol craft. That's really Venezuela's likely option, is to really kind of a maritime interdiction through here. And again, probably push across. But it also has Brazil, Lula of Brazil, who also came out of a questionable election in Brazil. But Brazil is now very concerned and mobilizing their military, because this is all Brazilian territory. And although Lula is China aligned, Maduro is China aligned, now China is creating a fight club between Venezuela and Brazil. Because Brazil, even though you got a communist in power right there, they don't want Venezuela moving in and taking over another country just because that's wrong. The whole organization of American states, which we used to very effectively use to advocate for American interests, but then just kind of evaporated. We helped set up the Organization of American States, is very strongly against any move by Venezuela, but I'm pretty sure something's going to happen. And, Maduro just came back from China. We're starting to see a track record. What happens when leaders meet with Xi or go to China and then come back? Bad things happen. Putin meets with Xi, invades the Ukraine. Iran has multiple meetings with China. Next thing you know, Hamas cooks off, attacking Israel. Maduro invades, Maduro visits China, comes back, and then all of a sudden they're having a referendum. So this is all China, 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 and it's right here. This is a dumpster fire in our front yard. So I'm all America first, but people say this has nothing to do with us. This one. This one has even more so than the stuff going on in the Middle East. Correct?
Oh, yeah. Because it's a strategic place, especially if I mean, this is like Cuban Missile Crisis type stuff. You start moving China and Russia into this area, right?
Well, this is off the map up here is Cuba,
right?
And where China has already said. Secretary of State Blinken went to China in one of the groveling events. I mean, he was the first of the leaders to go there and grovel, in the springtime. And as soon as he was on the plane back home, China said, not only are we reopening the spy base at Lourdes, which supposedly shut down in 2020, or 2000, which I don't think it really, just my personal observation, I don't think it shut down. But not only are we going to reopen the old Russian spy base, we're actually going to do military training in Cuba. Well, China sends all their resources and uses this as a forward base camp, a forward operating base, to then project troops and resources into Cuba, 90 miles off of Key West. So this is crazy town. So Venezuela is a huge base for China, huge base. And again, there's lots of Chinese, lots of Russians, lots of Iranians, lots of Hamas, lots of Hezbollah in Venezuela. So this is really bad. But if we were enforcing the Monroe Doctrine, this never would have happened.
Yeah, and I said this weekend, as this thing is shaping up, this is not I'm stating the obvious here. This is a big, big deal, is it not? This Venezuela Guyana thing.
Yeah, this is a big deal, just the Biden team. It's not in their DNA to advocate for American interests. They're always, in Israel, they're lecturing Israel, hey, if you fight Hamas, you create Hamas. And I'm going, wow, that's funny. I heard that during the War on Terror years with Bush, them lecturing Bush, if you fight terrorism, you create terrorism. And I know we have other issues with Bush and things like that. I never bought into this. If you fight, Trump showed very clearly what America First military action looks like, and that was Soleimani. I mean, he projected U.S. force to get the Iranian thug Soleimani. That's what he did that very effectively. We projected. And then we also got Baghdadi. So that's what America First military force looks like. We identify the target, we warn them. If they keep doing it, we project our force, we take care of the mission, and we return. That's good America First use of the military. But the Biden team just seems incapable. It's always lecturing. If you fight Israel, if you fight Hamas, you create Hamas. Heard that one before. Again, with oh, hey, I mean, this happened when I was in office constantly with the Obama team, where they're really mad about China. I said, okay, well, what do you want to do? And they say, well, we can't do it, so they want a list of all these things we could do, and you give them a list, and they go, oh, no, we can't do it because we do that. We'll only provoke China. I go, well, okay, I'm lost. You guys said you wanted to do something to deter and stop China, and you just by inaction, you're going to only create embolden. So it's just not in their DNA to do things that actually assert American interests and deter the opponent or teach a lesson of the opponent. So this is really important, Matt. I don't think you got everything. I'm looking, but just for orientation, Florida, Cuba, Puerto Rico. There's a big picture story in Puerto Rico about this. Panama down here, it's below the banner. You got Caracas, Venezuela, and just off the map over here, you got the imminent conflict zone of Venezuela and Guyana. So now this is this oval roughly represents international waters. Each one of these yellows is roughly 200-mile economic zone. So there's a lot of people don't realize in the Gulf of Mexico, there is a broad expanse of international waters. And guess what China has done? China, both in Mexican territory, the Mexican oil companies from China have the exploration rights, and also there's Gulf oil activity in this rough oval here. So this is and what's going on with these Chinese Gulf oil platforms? Who knows? What's going on with these?
So what's China's end game objective here? Just global dominance, or fighting for survival?
Just destroy America, replace America as the leading international power, and China becomes the center of the universe. I mean, that's literally from their writings and how they see the world. Ladies and gentlemen, this is real. And again, the war is not going to happen. It is going on. This is all these moves, all these chess moves. Everybody says the Chinese play Go. Okay, whatever. All these Go moves. Okay, this is all. They are trying to take us out without going to decisive conflict, because they know once that happens, we will ramp up and win. We're not good at taking care of this fifth generation warfare stuff. We're not good at that. So especially with the leadership we have right now, we're just not good at that. So this is the problem. But we mentioned you had Michael Yon on down there, and I spent some time with Michael Yon just below the banner there. But Michael Yon in Panama and Van der Stoel. Oh, there you go, right there. So right, Panama, all important. Because of the catastrophic loss of water, and there's a big question in that there's a mining operation that there's huge civil unrest in Panama right now. The legislature, the National Assembly is corrupt, and China has very effectively bought off a number of those. The one thing keeping China from totally taking over Panama is they use the dollar as the reserve currency. And just to us mere mortals who don't understand, economics and finance, that's a big deal. And that really is the singular factor why Panama has not totally fallen under Chinese controls, because they use the dollar as the reserve currency. And they really would like to see America back in a business and strategic partner role. They want to see us. It's always baffled them why we disappeared. But the new locks that they created, the ACP, the new Panama Canal Authority, they've done a magnificent job, huge new locks. The only problem is those suck up a lot more water with every cycle. And they're supposedly building a second reservoir beyond the Madden Dam that was part of the original Panama Canal structure in civil engineering effort. But it's slow. They've had this mining effort, which really riled up the population, because the assembly was just going to give this, it's actually a Canadian company for copper, one of the rare earth metal, going to give them a 20-year lease. Well, nobody gives anybody a 20-year lease on things. That's just right off the bat. That didn't sound good, and the people got very upset. It's now been essentially the president has essentially vetoed or invalidated that 20-year lease. But it's a lot of people unhappy in Panama. A lot of Chinese, and again, that's the Darien Gap. That's where all the Chinese and everybody else and the Venezuelans are coming through to America. But it's now the water levels are so low, 18 ships a day by the new year. 18 ships a day. That's crazy low as far as the volume of the ships they could support. You also got in Colombia, just recently, China signed an agreement with the new left-wing government in Colombia. Colombia used to be a solid U.S. ally, but again, election malappropriation. The leftists now control Colombia. Now they're talking about an alternative to the Panama Canal through. It's unclear what are they talking about. Are they talking about a huge rail line where you can load, offload very efficiently, which is still a bad idea? Are they talking about a new sea level canal? Unclear. But China has now struck a big deal with the new leftist government in Colombia. So this Panama Canal thing is pretty important, and we need to do something about it.
And it's a choke point here for this mass migration up through. It's a system that's already primed and chock full of immigrants, right? And any further destabilization down there in South America is going to cause people to flee and head up, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you got the war just off the map about to break out between Colombia and Guyana over here. So that's very concerning. Puerto Rico, I think they were 3.2 million. They're down to 2.7 million. The Puerto Rican people, those are U.S. citizens. They are fed up with their corrupt government, which mainly is blue. They're right over here in Puerto Rico. The Puerto Rican people are just absolutely fed up with corruption. They have a fentanyl crisis down there. It's been also a center of cryptocurrency. I don't totally understand that connection. But, crypto, high cash operation, fentanyl, high cash operation, bad things always flow toward high cash operations. But the Puerto Rican people are fleeing and creating a vacuum. Again, whenever you have population loss, that creates a vacuum. China senses and moves on those vacuums. Just like we have a lot of relatives in Hawaii. Hawaiian population is collapsing and leaving the islands, and just very unstable.
Now, sir, and the remaining moments that we have here, we're just about out of time to go to the top of the hour here. I want to remind everybody that mystore.com is the place where you can get Colonel Mills' I say best writings. The Nation Will Follow, and get that bundled package, of course. Purchasing at mystore.com gets you an autographed copy of both The War Against the Deep State and The Nation Will Follow, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, it's use Pete. Is it the promotion code? Is that correct?
Promo code Pete. You can go to mystore.com/Pete. And
we're just about. I'm rushing a number of new books. We're just about sold out. So I'm rushing a number of books to resupply. But thank you, everyone, and thank you, Pete.
Oh, thank you for taking the time out at a very tumultuous times is an understatement. But like you said, we are in World War III, ladies and gentlemen, and we need to start, not just recognizing it or coming awake to it. It's kind of like situational awareness. For instance, China's at war with us. Why shouldn't we recognize that we should be at war back with them rather than kowtowing to their interests? Thank you, sir.
All right, Pete. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you very much.